Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This week is show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mob Psycho 100, Season 3, Episode 7. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So the opening is coming up with the fact is that it is nearly winter break is coming up, but this kind of strikes a chord with Tomei because she realizes, holy crap, I'm about to graduate. And so she gathers up to the telepathy club and talks about the fact is that her and the oldest member of the club, they're going to be graduating, and it's going to be up to the other two to kind of carry the torch on. And it's kind of sad that you'll basically have to, go on without us, because most likely without us around, the telepathy club pretty much goes away. But they're very indifferent to it because they're like, well, that's fine. But she's like, but what about all the good memories? He's like, what do you mean? It's like, I mean, we pretty much we were lazy about here. We just ate snacks, having conversations, playing a couple games. That's kind of our whole deal. And Tomei was just kind of like upset because it's almost like, is that really all this has been relegated to? Like, we didn't have any like really special memories. She's breaking down into tears and stuff like that. And she's kind of bringing up the fact is that the telepathy club has never really lived up to its name. And basically it's fallen to the wayside. In the story. I mean, I wonder, did the manga focus on this a little bit more? Because they probably concise a lot of stuff for the anime, but I'm curious, like, did you explore more of Tomei's story in the manga? Maybe not. Maybe it's just exactly the same even in the anime, but it's like, it was pretty, like, it hasn't been as prevalent, her need to, like, hey, we're going to, like, wanting to communicate with aliens and stuff like that, right? With telepathy, you kind of, obviously, it's been a break in between me watching episodes for this, so, but it's still a thing of it isn't as frequent in the show because it just usually comes down to them all hanging out and stuff like that, which I think it's that aspect of life hitting you fast where you're like, wow, this came so quickly. I didn't realize this much time had passed. Like, I was just kind of having fun. I didn't even realize I'm about to graduate without having utilized and aimed my goal for starting this club in the first place, because it's like, they're like, well, don't worry about it. You could do it next year when you're in high school, right? She's like, yeah, she could, but the problem is she wouldn't be able to do it with them, It's like the thing is we'd all be together doing it, and this is our last time to all be together doing it, and it just wouldn't be the same if it's, in high school. But for her, it's just like they're not as serious about it, and it's just kind of like, right, the way they're kind of acting, once again, because the trio came to realize, like, wow, like, we kind of didn't really take this as serious as she did, because we were just like lacking about and just kind of like, yeah, that was her goal, but they lost sight of it. She kind of lost sight of it too, but they were never as serious about it as her, because they just thought it was like, oh, it's a club we get to goof around in. And so they realize like their folly, because now she's like, all right, like, let's just end things here. It's been great hanging with you guys, and then just moving on. And it's like, wow, we really just disbanded a club. And they're like, yeah, she's very brokenhearted, because she just feels like I might as well kind of nip this in the bud now. Why keep going around when obviously like this didn't mean as much to others as it did to me? So we cut to Mob, who's still dealing with the whole Dimple of it all, which, Ritsu is like, oh, are you okay? And he's like, no. I'm perfectly fine. He's like, you sure? Because like it's been like over a month since like Dimple stopped coming around, because Ritsu doesn't know the truth, that even Mob's memory of it has been wiped. So I think it might be more of a situation of Mob can't fully remember everything because Dimple basically like got inside his head and made him walk away and leave. That I think maybe there's a part of Mob that's like, there's something scratching at the back of his brain for this past month. Like there's something there and I just can't quite access it. Either way, that feeling of I'm forgetting something and I just don't know what it is, and it's probably been nagging at him the entire time. But either way, the remnants of the telepathy club came to Mob for help, and they're like, right, we need you to help with the Tomei of it all. We need like someone with telepathy. But for Mob, it's like, I want to help, but I don't have telepathy abilities. But Risu knows two people who does. It's the Shiro Torai, the two boys with telepathy, but their telepathy only works between them, so it's like they can't really help. But they do think like, well, we can use our powers to make noise, and that noise can be picked up by other telepaths, and if we make enough noise with our powers, we can draw them in, and that'd be our way around this. And then Mob's like, because I think Risu was like, oh, what do you think about this? And Mom's like, yeah, I'll do whatever I can to help. And the trio from the telepathy come like, man, Mob is so dependable. It's like, yeah, he is. And so Mob amplifies their ability because putting out the noise in a certain power, like rate, because like they've increased the radius of like how much their power can reach each other, which Risu's just like, wait, why don't you just use a cell phone rather than using your powers, like going so hard, but hey, it's good to know that Teru's been training them. But either way, Mob's going to amplify the range of their power, and they keep pushing it to the point it's now affecting other psychics as well. Like Risu, after a while, starts feeling it the more power Mob puts into it. I love the little interstitial thing in between where we see like it affects the other kids that are psychics, along with Serizawa, like because of how large the radius is because of Mob's a boost to their ability. But then we get Takenaka showing up, and I love the callback to being like, oh, he's the guy that left the telepathy club since the beginning. I was like, oh, that's kind of beautiful tying that in, considering we haven't touched, like, we didn't really see him, but it's like, yeah, he's the guy that left the telepathy club, why they needed to get Mob on their side so they could continue existing as a club. So I'm like, oh, that's beautiful, bringing that all full circle, especially because it all comes full circle for Tomei, considering like they're all doing this for her sake. And he's initially being like, oh, laughing at them, and you mean like, oh, you guys really still believe in that, and you're trying it. But you can tell, like the fact is he showed up when he did. I was like, nah, it's suspicious. Like, while you were searching for a psychic, he just happens to come to the club, even though he's never been back to the club since he left, because he's joined the tennis club. And he says like, oh, I'm here just because of exercises I have to do during winter break. But yeah, the more they push the power, the more of a strain it's putting on him until he reveals himself. And he's had these abilities since he was a kid, and he knew how complicated that was when like, oh, he told his mom something that his dad was really thinking, and it kind of made her come into tears. So he realized like, oh, the dangers of his ability. And so he had a hard time blocking out people's thoughts, which is kind of the major downside to telepathy, especially if it's outside of your control. And so like he's like, I think third grade is when he first realized he could start. Basically, he can push his thoughts into people's minds. Not mind control them per se, but just like, it's like it's not like it's an overriding thing of, oh, I'm gonna push my thoughts into your head and override your mind and kind of control you that way. If you've ever seen the movie Push, it's not like that. The whole notion of pushing someone with that type of ability, it's just like, hey, I can make my thoughts pop into your head. Like, that's all it is. And it was his way to alleviate some of the stress that he built up from everything. And we never actually see it in his ears, but he says he has like earplugs in. So I'm wondering, is it a thing of like, are they super deep? Like, did he have to have their surgery to do? Or because he said like, I'm never going to take my earplugs out. So that's what we never really saw them, but maybe it's just the way the art style is. You can't see it, because maybe in like the darker parts of his ear are them, or maybe like I said, they're like implanted or something like that. But it's helped mitigate it a lot. It's to the point some of the residual power is still there because he can still like get a gist of what's on someone's mind, even without having to fully read their mind. But yeah, they brought up what they want him to do, and he's kind of like, I have no interest in doing that, because his powers have kind of made him feel ostracized, and it's always been like this burden for him, so he had no interest in it. Which Mob is like, no, I get that. Like, you initially joined this telepathy club because you were trying to find a kindred spirit. And he's like, yeah, but then you found like I was just in a club with people who are obsessed with the cult. It's just that he just wanted to find someone that could understand what he was going through, so he wouldn't feel so alone in the world. And so when the time comes, like he's about to leave, but Mob talks to him, is like, I get it. I don't always like my powers. And he's saying like, but they are a part of who I am, and I've kind of had to come to terms with that. And he's like, if there's anyone that kind of needs that power, then I'm happy to help. And he's like, oh, like you can really understand how I'm feeling. Like you don't know me. And I love the line from Mob saying, but that's how I feel. And I think for, even though he says that line later on to Ritsu about not being able to read someone's face and get the gist of it. I think for him, it's just when he looked at Mob's face without even having to really read his mind, it's like, I can see the sincerity, because Mob is very sincere in what he does. Like, he doesn't really lie. It's just his very, like, he wears his heart on his sleeve. But once again, that line is so important of him being like, that's how I feel. Not something that he, just further proof of his growth, and it's having such an effect on Takenaka that he's like, all right, fine. So you guys don't use that noise stuff anymore. I'll go with you. So that's happening. We catch up with Reagan, who swindling another guy, being like, "Oh, drink this tea or whatever, because it'll help with like exhaustion and stuff like that, because like when you're exhausted, that's when the evil spirits that are around you start affecting you." But the guy seems perfectly normal, and it's like, "Oh, thank you, Reagan-san, I can't wait for our next appointment." And so he's asking Serizawa, like, "Oh, since it's like near the end of the year winter break, you want to like go out for drinks?" But Serizawa's meeting up with some friends because it's the end of their first year, which I'm like, look at Serizawa. Not only, this is the man that used to be such a shut-in, couldn't even leave, but now he's so much better. He's out there in the world. He's, got a job. He's going to school, and he's got friends too, And you could tell he felt kind of bad when Regan was like, all right, that's fine. But you can, because Regan doesn't really have any friends. We've established that. So like the only people he even says later on when the kids are like, he's like, they only need me for transport, for renting a vehicle so we can go look for UFOs. And Serizawa kind of smiles because it's like, I'm happy for you. Because he knows like, okay, at least Reagan won't be alone during the winter break. He'll be able to do something. And because, he doesn't really have any friends. So it's like, okay, so you're not alone during this time. Serizawa, it eases his mind knowing like, I'm happy for you. It's good to know that you won't be alone. The squad of the telepathy club try to reach out to Tomei, but she's like, no, I'm studying for exams and stuff, so leave me alone. I think it's like you're preparing for like, the end of the year, and then eventually like, your school year, and then like eventually going to high school and stuff, prepping this far in advance and stuff of cram schools and stuff. And ultimately, like, they don't hear from her at all. And so when it comes down to like New Year's Eve, they're like gathered up. They're like, oh man, I guess Tomei's not going to show up. But I love when they do go to the location, she was the one there already. It's like, wait, why didn't you answer us anytime we called? She's like, oh yeah, my phone was like messed up or whatever. I didn't even notice. And just like they're pissed, like, oh, we were stressing so much for the past couple of days because we couldn't get in contact with you, knowing whether or not you're going to show up. We were worried. Plus I love the Reagan of it all, because he wakes up, nice rest and everything. And he looks at his clock and it's like the batteries run out. He's like, no, I'm always preaching to Mob about showing up early. So they're stressing because they're thinking like, oh my God, Reagan's going to be so upset with us for being late and he's going to end up leaving us behind. So they have to wait on Takenaka, who ends up showing up late because he himself overslept. So I love they grab each other and they run and they're in front of Reagan. They're like, sorry, we're late. And he's sweating bullets. He's like, nah, it's fine. It's okay. Don't even stress about it. Even though in the narrator says it, he's like, he literally showed up 2 minutes before they did. I was like, of course, Reagan. I was like, of course he ran here too because he was late. I love it. He's trying to cover it up and be like, oh, he luckily got there before them and was able to fake it. So I love that. But we also have Tomei kind of disbelieving Takenaka, because for her it's like, right, like this is all I've been aiming for, and you're telling me the person who left our club is actually a psychic. She's like, telepathic. She's like, I don't believe that, because why wouldn't you say anything initially? But obviously he has complicated feelings with his powers, just like Bob did. But it's also kind of like, you are the person that also put our club in danger by you just abandoning us. So, of course, and the others knew that too. That's why they didn't want to say anything to her initially about Takenaka being their telepathic person. Because they're like, well, if we do tell her that, there was a good chance Tomei wasn't going to show up. So, either way, they're making their way to, Mount Mudboat. And they're making their way there to kind of search for UFOs. So we'll see what this situation turns out to be, how this all plays out. This is the next episode is part 2 to this. So I don't know if this is going to be a 2-part or a 3-parter, but I'm excited to see how the storyline plays out and what the resolution to it's going to be. Because I think it's going to be like kind of that final hurrah, obviously, for the telepathy club, but it might be a lot of closure for Takenaka because of his complicated feelings with his abilities, and also this gives Tomei what she wanted to, like what she wants with the contacting aliens potentially, but also gives her the good memories that they'll have through this adventure. So I think that's going to be a key part to all this. So I'm excited to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.